impact of colonialism on African women has been so profound and enduring, shaping both social, political, economic, and even cultural dynamics in ways that continue to influence the lived experiences of these women across the continent. Understanding the complexities of this impact is crucial for devising effective strategies to address historical injustices and empower African women. Welcome to the Bamenda Berlin Film School Discussion Cafe, a decolonial library project led by Blaise Bane, founder of the Bamenda Film School in Cameroon. My name is Nyima, Jadama. I'll be moderating this session together with my two beautiful guests. Like I said, we'll be discussing about the impact of colonialism on African women, and of course as well looked at and exit strategies through decolonial perspectives. With me in the studio, I have Frau Emily B., who is the administrative officer at the Bamenda School Association in Cameroon. Welcome to Berlin.
Thank you, Madam Mojeto. Good evening to you, and good evening to Madam Evelyn, and good evening to all our guests present here today.
Thank you very much for that. Good evening and welcome to you as well, Frau Okelo. I hope I pronounced your name well. And an activist on colonialism and of course Krankenpflegerin. From Kenya, based in Potsdam. Welcome to the Bamenda Film School Discussion Cafe.
Thank you so much.
So, as we said, we are looking at the impact of colonialism and, of course, looking at exit strategies and decolonial perspectives. My question first, I think I will direct it to you. So if you look at the impact of colonialism, as I said, varies actually from various exploitations, be it economic, legal, political marginalization, from cultural to educational disruptions, etc. What form of colonial exploitation, maybe point out one or two, has your country, Kenya per se, been through that is still existing, let's say for now?
Okay, in my country, Kenya, decolonization has really impacted women, and up to now it is still active because it started in 1995, if I'm not wrong, with a group of women that traveled in Beijing, and there they adopted a motion of freedom. Women were supposed to know their rights and also to allowed to participate, because there were issues like the simplest issue that could affect the normal woman in a level, the lowest level living standard in Kenya was like the dressing code, which took a very big part in the Kenyan community, and it took a positive move, and now I'm proud to say that in Kenya we are really far much step ahead in what decolonization has impacted in our lives.
Is there any specific thing that need an exit strategies? Like, is there something existing? Now, for example, I'm from the Gambia, and if you look at our constitutions or legal books, they are still practicing colonial legal norms. So this is still existing. So I don't know in Kenya, do you have something like that still? I mean, of course, the dressing code doesn't influence anyhow.
Okay, and in Kenya, I can actually say we are far much beyond in decolonization. We have really adapted so many things. If you get to inform yourself about Kenyan women, we are so much far ahead. The only thing I can say that it will take maybe a percentage of 60 to 40, 40 to 60, very few, because we are really outspoken, and when we want to do our things, we don't look back, we don't look tradition, religion or something, we just do it the way it should be done, because we know our rights, we know the compound and how it was grounded for us in Beijing.
That's amazing. I have a follow-up question on that, but before that, Frau Emily, you actually from Cameroon, right? Now let's look at the impact of colonialism on, let's say, Cameroonian women, right? So before colonialism, most empires in African countries, some African countries were ruled by women. A typical example I could give is the Malian Empire, the Agogis of Benin Republic, and many more. Why do we have a limited number of women ruling now, if that should be the case in Cameroon?
Okay, thank you, Madam, for that question. We have a limited number of ruling party because during the period of colonialism, before colonialism, women were freedom fighters. Mm-hmm. Before colonialism, women were leading in the militaries. Mm-hmm. But when colonialism came, they were forced out of their jobs and they had no right to school. And you know, to lead somebody, you need knowledge. Yeah, you need wisdom. You need to have the understanding how to deal with humans. Mm-hmm. But women were not able to have the opportunities to go to school. Mm-hmm. So I think they lack knowledge of ruling. Mm-hmm. And that is what is making us to have limited numbers of to rule the country.
Okay. So, Frau Okelo, you made mention of like Kenya is far ahead. Yeah. Of course, I know there's like I think last month a Kenyan colleague of mine called me, was like I think they've won a case against Britain, mm-hmm. Where they've sued Queen or the monarch, yeah. To restrict off, and he was like, you could do that for Gambia. I'm like, from which evidence? I'm sure we don't have any. So, that shows how empowered and how far ahead countries like Kenya is. And he was like, my family is going to be compensated. And so I'm like, I'm sure my grandmother will not even know what's that now. So it doesn't make sense. So that's quite interesting. And then it actually brought me to the question of what impact has colonialism brought to Kenyan women?
Okay, the impact of colonialism in Kenyan women is so far much wide, if I can say so, because the women in Kenya, we are not only good listeners, we listen and we put in action. Yeah. And we thank God. Even I think there's an actor in America, he said, Arnold Schwarzenegger said that you can play with any woman in any part of any African country, but don't try a Kenyan woman because they will finish you in media. Yeah, and I was like, wow, is this how we are? So the colonization in a Kenyan African woman of today, mm-hmm. in terms of education, infrastructure, mm-hmm. business, name it, is far much beyond, and much that I believe to the youngest generation, because mm-hmm. there's limited ages of kids from 8 to 10 in Kenya who can write books. Mm-hmm. So I believe that the women and the mothers, as families, as they are being led into the mm-hmm. day-to-day lives, mm-hmm. they are really putting much effort, and mm-hmm. it's really working for us. Yeah, I cannot say that there's limitation on to which end they can, because in every aspect of life of a Kenyan woman, mm-hmm. she knows how and when. A little bit gap.
At least.
Yeah,
at
a
least
little bit gap. Yeah,
everything.
But something of everything is there, is happening.
Yeah. Amazing. So, from Emily, you from Cameroon, a country from 2 different languages, colonized, both British and English, and you're from the French part, I believe, right?
No, I'm from the English part.
Okay, so let's say the French part, the French people are still very powerful, right? Somehow they are colonizing Africans in certain countries, like, let's say Senegal, for example, is still somehow paying France in terms of their currencies because it's produced there and so on. So these are all forms of colonialism. Does the former colonial still have somehow impact in your country's, let's say, political aspect somehow?
Okay, thank you, Madam. Like you said, the French system are the majority of my country, Cameroon. Yeah. And I would say we still have this impact of colonialism, mm-hmm. because there are still rules, there are still things today that are being done because of the way the colonizers introduced it to us, but they are mm-hmm. not being done in our traditional way, which it was the way our forefathers were behaving.
Yeah. Amazing. So I'm sure all of us here has never experienced colonial times, right?
No.
But I'm sure we've heard of stories about colonialism, maybe from our forefathers or grandparents if they lived long. What stories do you hear that really tricks you and be like, this, I could stop this, or it could have been done a different way?
Okay, I believe the stories I heard concerning women and colonization is when the British people came to the country and then men had taken charge of everything. That is, as in the British came in and they took charge of everything. Then with time, as it grew, the Kenyan people or the Kenyan native people, they said, no, this cannot go. So they had to fight out to be liberated. And when they liberated, the colonization still was pressing the women down. They could not speak on their own. They could not do things. So the power was, as in from the colonizers to the rulers, which were men by that time. By that time, women were not supposed to do anything. You are just to be a good housewife, stay at home. But I thank God for the few women that could, after the oppression and everything, they said, but this one cannot go long. They had to do something about it. It was not so good because I believe if at all the women could have given that time, that chance, Kenya will be, if today we are like this, it could have been, I don't know what will be by today. Yeah, it could have been more better.
That's good. How was the situation in Cameroon? Was there any forms of resistance? Because in Gambia, for example, some women are still termed as housewives. We still have this patriarchy issues and the perspective of women are better at home, right? How was it in Cameroon compared to now?
Okay, at first, since women were not allowed to go to school, they were like to stay in the house and do house chores, which was really stressful to them. But I would say today, though there is still that part of colonization, but I am happy that today some Cameroon parents are fighting to send their girls' children to school. And when they go to school, I think they acquire more knowledge and know their rights, know how to stand up for themselves, because the most important is that the girl child should know how to stand for her right and to know what is wrong and what is right.
So that means that's one positive impact that colonialism has brought to the African continent, right? Education. What other impact do you think was so positive that we could see? Yeah, that was good.
Enlightenment. In various ways, like lifestyle. People have to change the way they live their lives, because if they were like to live the traditional ways, I don't think if we'll be ready to adapt what we achieve today. So their lifestyle changed, their ways and mind of thinking. After going to school, you achieve knowledge and education, then you know, okay, this is what I want and I can go for it. So,
but don't you think, I don't really quite agree with that. Don't you think sometimes, I mean, tradition is tradition, right?
Yeah, tradition cannot be changed.
But just what you said, somehow it influences it, right? It
influences it because of the way when you go, if you want to bring tradition into the law, it somehow contradicts.
You know, sometimes they would say, okay, one main impact that colonialism brings is civilization. Yeah. I always say, no, we were civilized before colonialism. So for me, I do not take that. We had our own civilization because that's what we know as civilization. So
our culture and tradition was part of our
what they know as civilization is what they know. So somehow they impose stuff to us that somehow it's imposed. Because if you look at the whole context of colonialization, there was nothing that was agreed.
No.
This is that, take it. This is that, take it. Right. So it's a matter of like a huge debate. Of course, some positive impact, education, and civilization, you mentioned. I didn't agree with that. What's your take?
I already talked about the educational purpose, that was what I see that impacted me, because at first these women were not allowed to go to school. But now, like I said, the parents in Africa are forcing. I'm sure that almost 90% of parents in Cameroon want that their girl children should go to school.
You've made mention of the Bamenda School in terms of empowering women through media. What solutions are you using or ways to inform them about, of course, colonialism and maybe what strategies one could use to be empowered? At least know that, okay, something was happening.
Yeah, I would say the exit strategies that I did, I for once, I am really fighting for that. Like the project I said, we work in at the Bamenda Film School. I am also a baker. Yes, I always find time to train women on how to bake, on how to do their own jobs, and there are times that I train about 18 women in a week.
Wow.
Yeah, they do wedding cakes, they do anything that concerns baking. And I think I'll not say I think, but I always see the result, because after that, they go back and they always have their jobs where they have commands from customers. So I think it's impacting them, because if they are able to have a way of sustainability,
Yeah,
and then it will be an exit strategy to decolonization.
that's an exit strategy. What's your last note?
As for me, I can say that what my colleague has said, women should stand for their rights, but there's a but always with me, because we should stand for our rights and we should not forget the aspect of respect in the African culture, because feminism is getting into contradiction with what respect is supposed to be in the African women's life today. There's a contradiction, and I think something should be done about it. Only that.
Women's life matters too. African Black women's life matters too. Decolonize perspective. That was all we have for you on our today's discussion on decolonizing perspective, looking at exit strategies on decolonizing topics. My name is Nyima, Jadama. I was your moderator together with my amazing guests all the way from Cameroon, and of course in Potsdam. We've looked at various topics like what is all about colonialism, what actually should we do in terms of decolonization, and of course, most importantly, exit strategies. So that's all again we have for you. This is the project from the Bamenda Berlin School project, film project. Until we come your way next time, thank you very much, and thanks to my guest.
Thank you.
Is there any question?